Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Simon. Hello again. Please analyze Children of Nova, The Order. I love experimental metal and rock, and after dwellings a lot like birds and bird problems, I want to see your analysis for this song. This song is full of energy and gets me every time. Have fun. Alright, so Children of Nova. I don't believe I am familiar with this group at all. Don't even think I've heard the name of them before. Let's dive into this song. It's called The Order, and it comes off of the 2009 The Complexity of Light album. Very atmospheric, building textures with the guitars. Kind of reminds me of Mars Volta a little bit. Has that post-hardcore vibe mixed with something else, trying to figure it out. So we have a 4, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it works in both a 3 and a 4. Okay. Very powerful, driving. Love the vocals. The opening up of that guitar tone on the left, I dig that. Yeah, bringing that intensity with the vocals before a beat of silence. We are all over the place though. This thing is bouncing everywhere. So much music, only 3 minutes in so far. Dude's got a wild falsetto. little bit of bass movement, but a nice way of adding some extra work to that right guitar. The 3 against 4 thing actually does a really great thing. We're going to talk about it in a second. Okay. Very abrupt ending right there. We'll just roll with it. Yeah, so the 3 against 4 thing that we have there, technically it's 3 against 2, but whatever, it's 4 against 6. The idea, though, is that we can count that section either in 3 or 4. And what's cool about that is that it allows them to create this ebb and flow in the music, where it can be very driving, bump bump ba da da dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun 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 da da da, right? And so we have this fast driving 3 idea, but also you can listen to the bass, the drums, the long held out notes of the vocals, the instruments that are showcasing more of the 4, which is a bit slower. It makes it feel like the song kind of reins back a little bit, leans back, chills out a little bit, and you can actually hear the song emphasize the faster ideas and the slower ideas to create this ebb and flow where we speed up, then we slow down, we speed up and we slow down. It creates this constant feeling of contrast in many of the sections. You can also force it, if you would like, in the sections that want to stick with one idea or the other by feeling the 2 different time feels. When you want to shift, when you want to change, just feel the other one. And so the song is simultaneously driving, consistently pushing with a fast momentum in a specific direction, and kind of taking its time getting there, finding a more scenic route to get to that destination. There isn't any part of the song that I think stagnates or ends up drowning under the weight of anything. It's just, it has a direction to go. It doesn't, I don't know if I could say it always knows where it's going, but it knows which direction it's sprinting in. And it's going every time. There's nothing that really feels like it lags or slows down or anything like that. But it does have that ebb and flow, and it works so well. Now, I mentioned Mars Volta, and I'm sure plenty of you also hear it. If you're familiar with Mars Volta, this doesn't really sound all too far off. It has some of that post-hardcore energy, guitar tone, vocal delivery, and chord usage, but it's mixed with a progressive element as well, something very experimental. That's, to me, well, it's mixed with something experimental, but also mixed with noise and layers. And to me, that is the ingredients that go into Mars Volta. It's very progressive, eclectic, post-hardcore mixed with other stuff. They tend to take the eclectic experimental ideas quite a bit further than most experimental post-hardcore bands, but I mean, that's what makes them the Mars Volta. It's what makes them an acquired taste and gives them that niche area within that realm of music. There aren't really any bands like them. Some that can be, run parallel to them, but no bands really like the Mars Volta. And it's because they're willing to go to those extremes. Children of Nova doesn't really get there, but it does push closer than a lot of progressive post-hardcore bands that I would expect, or that I've heard from. Because we have an entire middle section we got to discuss. There are some wild juxtaposing ideas at the end of the second chorus, where I think I even mentioned that we're doing everything all at once. It'll be quiet with like a held out note for 2 beats, and then we'll have 2 beats of noise, of just like fast strumming and like a snare roll or something like that. And then we'll have 4 beats of like, I don't know, some random chord with a nice little guitar melody on top of it, and then we'll have 4 beats of noise again, texture, atmosphere, stuff like that, and it's just like this rapid fire channel surfing going on. And then from there we went into the bridge proper, which the first section was the most wildly arrhythmic, eclectic idea I think I've heard in a while. It was like a couple notes here, a couple notes there, some rest, couple notes there, and it doesn't make any sense until, of course, they add in more layers and we fill in some of those spaces, and you can hear how it begins to turn into a hocket. But we really get one out of like 4 instruments at the beginning, and so we're missing 75% of this section's idea. And it sounds so wild and vague, and I don't know, like, it's one of those things that just got to grow on you, right? I liked the end result. The journey getting there, though, had some ups, but it was also a lot of me questioning what they were doing, where they were going. Yeah, they were experimental, they were progressive in the verse and chorus and intro, but it all was progressive in a palatable way, and here they completely upended that and said we're starting from scratch. Also, this is going to be very unlistenable for a moment. It's not going to make any sense. Stick along for the ride, please. And I'm glad I did. Like I said, the end result is very cool, but it was a rough ride getting there, and maybe having the knowledge of how it develops, of where it goes, makes a subsequent listen easier. I certainly listened to my fair share of music, primarily in the post-hardcore realm, that was probably difficult to listen to the first time around, where there were a lot of twists and turns in it that feel very natural to me now. It's quite possible that I give the order another couple of listens and I have a very different opinion of this middle section. But as I stands right here, it's a reaction. My first time listening to it, how do I feel? I was lost, and I didn't really enjoy that part. I thought that the beginning was really great. This is an awkward middle, and then we finished on a strong note. And I don't know, they went and did some weird stuff in the middle of this track. Right around the 3 minute mark was when they went really eclectic, really non-traditional in their writing, for better or worse, depending on where you're coming from on that. And yeah, I don't know. Also, it just dawned on me. Did anybody else see this? I mean, I know it's probably not super big. That's not a dude with really long hair. That's a bird head on that body. I thought he just had like beautiful black hair shining in the sun or whatever. I completely missed the whole beak thing. I thought it was just like the hair, and he's like looking out. We don't get to see the face, but no, that's a bird. Okay. Uh, but yeah. But like, despite that middle section, I really want to like this. And you know what? I feel like I've started off so many Mars Volta analysis sections with that. I really want to like this because at the end of the day, there's some cool stuff going on in here. In almost all these sections, we have our guitars pushed out to the sides, doing a variety of things. Occasionally, they'll be playing the same thing, just really hammering home a single idea, but that's actually quite in the minority. Usually they're in some sort of harmony, counterpoint, hocket. They're just always doing two different things in order to fully create the atmosphere that they're going for. And very rarely would I say that any of it is riff based. There are quite a few riffs in here, but there's also a lot of atmospheric work utilizing the guitars and probably a plethora of pedals of sorts to craft specific tones. In fact, I think the left guitar, I must have heard 6 or 7 tones out of it, and none of them fit into anything other than atmospheric or foundational. It's not like we had a lead tone that kind of cut some of the noise out and focused the sound in a little bit because they were going to be in the spotlight. A lot of it was atmospheric foundational stuff designed to be a bit wider, larger, fill up space, and create texture. Lots of distortion, compression, white noise, all sorts of stuff on it. And that's what you hear throughout. I mean, the entire beginning was both of these guitars doing vastly different things in order to craft this this very palpable, fuzzy feeling in the song. They do a fantastic job at that. And like I said, it's not all atmosphere though. There are some riffs in here too. And you know what? They're catchy. They're short. I don't think we had anything over 4 bars long. And a lot of it was just a 1 bar phrase that was repeated over and over. And then the pitches shifted to move along with chord progressions. So, yeah, very cool guitar work throughout this entire thing. It's something that I really love about it. And the spacing out, the dual layering. I mean, this is what I love about post-hardcore. It's the same thing that I love about Hail the Sun. It's the parts of Mars Volta that I've tended to praise. We get through the verse and the chorus and the verse and the chorus, and these guitars are absolutely nailing it. Listen to what the bass is doing. Not always interesting. But there are some really cool ideas that the bass does come through with a couple of times. I'd like them to lean into that more often, but still, the couple of times it comes through, I'm happy about it. It sounds great in the mix. It could use a little bit of a boost, but it's honestly fine. And there is movement to it, even if it tends to be a bit more on the simple side in order to drive home a harmonic quality, usually some sort of pedal tone or moving around a pedal tone kind of idea. There's still movement to it. It's better than just sitting on one note all the time. And so I enjoy that. And the drums are just a beast on this. I never really know what they're going to aim for. There's groove, there's drive, there's energy, and there's so many little flourishy drum fill ideas all over the place. Yeah. Have we been hitting the snare on beat 3 for 4 bars? Yeah, we have. Okay, well, next time we get to beat 3, I'm going to put like a cool little syncopated drum roll in there. Why? Because I haven't been doing anything interesting for a second. I mean, the drummer, he feels antsy all the time in the best way. Like, he just has this energy. He's like, I need to do something interesting. I need to do something cool. I can't just sit here and be a metronome. And so there's always something interesting when you listen to the drums. Absolutely love listening to the it's not really melodic drum work on this one, but it's just very personal, very stylized, and I dig that. And so, like, everything's really great in here. I love most of what's being played all the time. Now, one instrument I didn't bring up, and it's because I want to put a little bit more focus on them: the vocals. The vocalist is insane. Dude, you listen to him, like, check out the range. First of all, lovely range, just beautiful. Dude's got some wild highs, doesn't quite get really low, but also showcases a bit of the range on this track, pulling it down to some of the lower notes they can hit. There's also that wicked falsetto we have at the beginning of the track that is somehow a very full sound. Some people just have wild voices, right? But for a second, when I was listening to that part, I was like, this has got to be multi-tracked to give it that fullness, because falsetto is typically more of an airy sound. But no, like, his falsetto, it sounds like he's belting, but it doesn't have the volume behind it to be a belt. I honestly have no idea how it's made. Maybe it is completely organic, just crafted entirely by his voice. But I mean, if it is, I'm in total awe. My gut still says there's some production stuff going on there to fill that sound out. I'm sure he's doing like 60, 70% of it, but there's just something about it that feels inhuman to me, at least in this productionist version of it. Um, so yeah, we have range. Range is just a big one for me. But you also have to listen to the clarity of his vocals. This dude has presence to his sound, it has body, it has weight. Everything is just a nice, big, full sound. Even when he goes quieter, it doesn't end up feeling empty or vapid or, I don't know, small. Even when it's quiet, it still has a full body to it. I have no idea how he does it. Normally when I talk about the vocals or sounds, and I talk about them getting airy or anything like that, I'll like mimic it with my voice so you can kind of get a feel for what I might be talking about in the song. You can hear it and then try to hear that in music. I can't replicate what this dude does. I can't make a full-bodied falsetto. I can't make full-bodied quiet sounds. I have to get rid of air pressure to reach those volume levels. It's why I think that there's production tricks at play, but like if there are, it's still only going to be like a third of the sounds, maybe a quarter of the sounds. It's still a majority this dude though. It just blows my mind. It really does. The more that I listen to it, the more dexterous he became, the wider of a range that he showcased. It's just like, yes, I really love the vocals. Absolutely magnificent on this. Um, I will say though, this is a very chaotic song structurally. We kick it off with an intro and a verse and a chorus, and there's a lot of chaotic ideas in transition from these. Just like we had that really back and forth, wonky, high then low, then high then low, energy then dissipated kind of thing between the second chorus and the bridge. We also see some of these wacky, harsh transitions elsewhere too, just in smaller capacity. Those kind of never clicked with me. But the ideas themselves are solid. We have an intro, a verse and a chorus, a verse and a chorus, and then the bridge. But from this point on, I'm not really sure how the song works. We have like a 2 minute bridge, maybe, but that's made up of several sections. I'm not sure how many, and some of them felt like they used ideas from a previous one, maybe even ideas from the verse or the chorus earlier. So I'm not sure how linear this is entirely. And then we do get back to a chorus eventually, but the ending was an interesting expansion on the chorus. We changed some things while retaining others in order to keep a similar energy but to create a unique outro. It ends up being very difficult to follow on a first time, and so I suppose my closing remarks before we get into the lyrics are going to be my usual closing remarks with anything really progressive like this, which is that it's very dense. There's a lot of information here, and there's a lot of stuff I missed, even as much as I talked about here, that would be discovered or understood on a subsequent listen. This is not something you're going to fully understand after listening to once. And, yeah. On the flip side, though, I do think I want to listen to more of this. It is. So I have a scale. The scale is standard post-hardcore, which is kind of like angry pop punk in a sense, with like, I don't know, a little bit of metallicness to it. And then on the other side of that is the Mars Volta. They are still post-hardcore, but they're not standard like what's over here. They're very complex and dense and chaotic. There's a lot of non-palatable ideas or less palatable ideas present there. Usually I'll find bands that I like that are complex in the middle. I rarely find anything that kind of goes from the middle to the Mars Volta side. This I do think is the most Mars Volta leaning thing I've ever had on my scale. It is so close to their level of complexity, but they attempted, Children of Nova here, to create something just a hair bit more palatable, and while still being experimental, just less noisy overall while still retaining some of that noise. That's the thing too. It feels like they have many of the same concepts as Mars Volta's music compositionally. They just don't push the extremes as far. They have noise, but it's not as noisy. It's kind of gazy in a way that the noise is positively impactful on the music. There are very eclectic rhythmic ideas, but they're not as chaotic as Mars Volta tends to go. There's some interesting harmonic ideas in here pulling from outside of rock, but it's not quite as avant-garde as Mars Volta likes to go. And that's I hate to call them this, but I think if I were to describe them to most people, especially since they only have 9,000 monthly listeners, it's not a lot of people have heard of them. I would certainly say they're more Mars Volta light in the most complimentary way I can. Because Mars Volta is very difficult for me to listen to, this kind of scratches a similar itch, but is a lot easier for me to get into. And so, if Children of Nova, you just happen to be here on my corner of the internet watching this for some reason, know in the best kind of ways that what you're doing is very fascinating, and that my comparison to Mars Volta is a positive one. Um, let's hit some lyrics on this. Alright, so I actually kind of had this thought originally. Called Children of Nova, something about the art and the name made me think it was religious. I'm not sure if that's true entirely. The lyrics are rather vague, but it is about the narrator being part of an army of light fighting off the night, fighting off darkness, and knowing that it is an uphill battle, that it almost will never end, but that they must have faith. The choice of light versus darkness, of faith, of a war that never ends, they're very familiar to Christian mythology. So I can read this. Oh, it even says at one point, this was good. He says, "We are the answer," and it scolds its name in my veins. So I find it very easy to read this from a Christian perspective. I don't know if it necessarily is written that way, though. But the concept is written vaguely enough to attribute it to any sort of war between good and evil, any sort of ideological difference where the protagonist believes himself to be on the side of good or righteousness. It doesn't even necessarily need to be that they're accurate, just that they believe it. But we have the first verse. Oh, here's something interesting too, is that all of the choruses are different in length, in words. I vaguely remember that the musical elements were the same, which is how I figured out that we have this verse chorus structure. But if you gave me the lyrics here without the section names on top of each stanza, it feels completely linear. There's very little repetition of ideas, of phrasing, of, I don't know, syllabic rhythm. It's it's free-form poetry from start to finish with no repeated ideas. So yeah, I find that to be really interesting. But anyways, verse 1 says, "Survive, we all seek reform, but today we will starve no more. The cry of a nation's hope will never have a home. We just echo through the ages, but not anymore." So there's been a lack of placement. We haven't really known a home, and we've wanted more. We've wanted to reform things. And this starvation, this lack of a home, these cries have echoed for years, but that ends today. That's what this first verse is about. And so the chorus says, "Find your voice and sing them the breaking of faith." I really like that line. There's power behind that. Verse 2, though, has wavering faith in this. It says, "We've been fighting the end of the night. Can we become conquerors of light?" It's not that we've been fighting the darkness. We've been fighting the end of the night. It almost feels like it's been going forever. right there at the end, right there at the cusp. You can see the finish line, and yet it just keeps getting further. It says, can we ever become the conquerors of light? Of course, I had mentioned earlier, verse 3 has the ideas that we are the answer, and his name is scolded. It's seared into my veins. Our will is strong for that. So yeah, that's what I read out of this. A battle of differing ideologies. The narrator believes they're on the righteous side of things, but the war seems unending. But they have to keep fighting because the change that will come is necessary for their people. Yeah, I mean, it's about a war. Wars are chaotic. Some of the wild shifts in this track certainly line up with that. The awkward rhythmic part of the bridge, I don't really see in the music much. Maybe it's just something that would make more sense after a few more listens and having the lyrics up and kind of seeing how everything fits into place and getting a better gist of the song. That part just still seems a bit outside of the scope of both the song and the lyrics, but still, I've only listened to it once. I think I've done pretty good for a one-time listen reaction. But I'm here to learn just as much as you all are. So, those are my thoughts on Children of Nova's The Order. What are your thoughts? What's your perspective? Are you a big fan of this, and do you have insight into it that I didn't touch on? Maybe I said something that you'd like to expand on, or maybe something I need to be corrected on. Put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.